Hey, good people, how are you? I'm getting into this here book, Autobiography, Taj Mahal, one of my favorites. Love some Taj. Enjoying this read so far. Interesting to know that he's, basically was raised in Springfield, Massachusetts. A lot of towns around there mentioned. He worked on a dairy farm for quite some time. He really was into farming. Maybe I'll talk about that a little bit later, but he really had a lot of experience on dairy farms and was really into agriculture. It's pretty awesome. And at the beginning of the book here, he's talking about his childhood and talks about what it's like in the house that he grew up in. He says, Buddy Johnson, my godfather, who was a great band leader on the level of Billy Eckstine. Trummy Young, a real good friend of my dad's. The band leader, Jack Teagarden. These people my parents knew personally. They came to town or to play in Holyoke, about 9 miles away from my home in the Valley Arena. At the Valley Arena. That's where all the big bands played back in the 40s. Back in the 40s, being on the road for black musicians was a problem about where to eat. One time my mother set up to cook for this big band. Some odd hour in the morning, this big band pulls up in front of the house, and in comes all these musicians. They're clapping my father on the back and hugging Mom because she put out all this real Southern cooking. These guys were just knocked out. All us kids got woke up and we came down. It was one of the most exciting times a kid could have with all these musicians. I remember being excited about that for years later. Real musicians came by our house and really knew my dad. Once in Hawaii, I had a chance to speak with Ella Fitzgerald. I told her that my parents spoke highly of her, especially my dad, and went on a bit about him. She looked at me and it dawned on her that, oh my God, this is that man's son. Oh yeah, genius, she said. I knew him really well. My mother had talked about them meeting. So as a child, I was aware of this mix of peoples and languages and cultures. I grew up in an eclectic melting pot of music and all kinds of people and accents in and out of the house. High energy all the time. All kinds of music, not just black music, but Mario Lanza, Kate Smith, classical, jazz, blues, all the Christmas carols, Bing Crosby. My mother used to sing us German lullabies. She brought her Southern gospel music with her, so I was hearing those sounds as I grew up. Instruments were regarded as magical things. As a kid, you just didn't go put your hands on one unless you knew what the hell you were doing. To pick up an instrument was a serious commitment. So amazing to hear how lively his house was, full of music. And he was the oldest of his siblings. And when he got turned on to guitar playing and really started to get into music, he used to go up into the attic and just play and play and play and play and play. And his siblings recall that time. They knew that he was upstairs playing. Early on, he hadn't taken the name Taj Mahal, of course. As this book explains, he took that name, like when he went to college, he went to UMass Amherst for agriculture. And, but, his name's Henry. And some of you probably know the Keb Mo song, Henry, is written about Taj Mahal. I play that song. It's a beautiful song. And that is a song that that Keb Mo wrote. And Henry is Taj. So check out that song. I'll play it for you next time I see you. And yeah, so it's fun. And it's fun to hear about how high energy Taj was, but how incredibly introverted he was, and that he spent so much time just like woodshedding and playing guitar, just getting close with the guitar for hours and hours and hours. He was so committed. Yeah, so it's real fun to hear his story. So far, it's it's not quite what I expected. I had no idea he had such a connection to agriculture, especially dairy farming. So that's pretty rocking and pretty incredible. He never wanted to be a musician growing up. He wanted to be a farmer, and that changed for him. But pretty incredible. And of course, his legacy of music is outstanding and remarkably fun. That's one thing I like about Taj's music. It's so playful, so playful. Playful, funny. The characters are funny. It's big-hearted. He's got a big-hearted music, and that's what really comes across for me. It's fun, it's big-hearted, and of course the level of guitar playing, the instrumentation that he personally has, the finger picking, the finger-style guitar playing, which is nice to, hear in this book, because he's quite a historian about music as well. He's pointed out that finger-style music, the iteration that we, rely on so heavily, personally I rely on so heavily, of course, it's an African technique that came over from Africa. Of course, naturally, the banjo is an African instrument, and the style of plucking the strings as such comes with it from Africa. And so I owe all of my finger style techniques and the music that I've ever heard from my heroes, Taj being one of my heroes, comes out of Africa. So the roots of fingerstyle guitar, finger picking, come from Africa. So it's wonderful. He's quite a historian, and you may have seen him in movies. I can't remember the name of the movie now, but he's been in numerous movies as cameos in numerous movies where he's the musician plucking away at some deeply authentic music on a banjo or on a guitar, and of course he's just incredible. So fantastic songwriter. I also play I play Keb Mo's Henry, and I love to play Taj's Queen Bee. That's a great song. I also play She Caught the Katy, but that one's a little more single notes that I play. That's a fun song too. She Caught the Katy. I also play Cakewalk. So yeah, these have been in my set list for years. And one that I've played the most probably is oh geez, I can't remember the name of it right now. It's escaping me. Well, awkward pause. I'm going to play it, just see if I can. So I'm kind of tethered here to this, but let's see. Goes like this. On this out-of-tune harmony guitar, I'll just play a verse. I love you, baby, and you know I can be the one to be your man. I love you, baby, and you know I do anything in the world for you. To see the loving in my baby's eye, to see the loving in my baby's eye, to see the loving in my baby's eyes, to see the loving in my baby's eyes, loving in my baby's eyes. Hopefully the squeaky chair that I'm sitting on isn't too loud, but yeah, that's one of my favorites from Taj, and so many others. But he's an incredible musician. I'm loving the story, and I'll share a little bit more with you as I get into it. Hope you're good. Stay kind.